Hi everybody, today we're going to take a look at lesson 19. So again, if you are stuck on any of the levels, you can fast forward to that particular level for help. Basically, we're going to talk about using functions today and how we can make our games a little bit more organized. So let's take a look. Make sure if you haven't watched this video to do so. It is helpful. I'm not going to play it here, but you should be watching each of these videos because they really do talk about the importance of certain things and how to use them. Sometimes just reading it and not seeing it doesn't make it very easy. All right. So calling functions let you build your own blocks and decide what code goes inside of them. The program has already created two functions, but only one of them is being called. They want you to do this. Call the second function to reveal the full image. Use the function that's being called as a guide. Just a tip, just as with all other blocks, spelling and capitalization are important here. Okay, so right here, hold on, let me restart my version history here. Okay, so right here you can see that you only have the sun because we haven't called the second function. So this function is draw sky. It has the background and it has an ellipse that's yellow. Now if you notice up here, it's called the function. Okay, it called the function. The second function that's there is those balloons that you saw before I hit reset. There's all these things going on here. Basically just a set of balloons, different colors. But we're not seeing those on here because we haven't called that function. So in order to do that, all you have to do is pull this block over and make sure, just like it says draw sky, again with that camel back, just capitalizing that second word. We're going to do the same for draw balloons. Now, with that in there, you'll see the balloons show up. All right, so you have all of your information to draw them here, and then you're just going to have this very short code to actually show it. All right, so when you call a function, you're telling the program to draw it. So that's all you had to add. All right, reordering code. Placing code inside functions makes it easy to read and make changes. Good names for functions indicate what your program is doing to a reader. Okay, don't just put a random name in there. Like this one says draw background, draw the trees. So you know exactly what you're doing. You might, but again, think about the user. You want to make it user friendly. You can call your functions in a different order to quickly make significant changes to how your program runs. This program has already created 4 functions that draw parts of a scene. Unfortunately, it's not coming out right. So we're going to read the 4 functions to know what they do, and then we're going to call the functions in an order that draws the scene in the way that looks best to you. All right, so there's my scene that I created. Well, in the order that I put them. I called all my functions at the end. All right, so this is what I ended up with. I drew the background first, then the clouds, then the trees, then the fence in the front. All right, but I'm going to start over to show you how I decided that. Remember, it's a layering effect. You want to make sure whatever you want in the background goes up top and the foreground comes to the front. So it's further down. Again, all of your actual code that's doing the work is up here. All right, so you've got your background, you have your trees, so everything's organized, your clouds, then your fence. Okay, so nothing's being called right now, so we need to call those things. If we just did draw fence, might not even see it. Nope, because it's white. All right, so maybe we want the draw background. I'm going to want that above it, so it's behind it. Again, I'm just resetting and running again. All right, if I put this below it, though, all you'd see is the background. All right, so if you want that layered effect, look at your order. Okay, now we have the draw trees and the draw clouds. Again, watching that capitalization. Okay, and then maybe you want the trees behind the clouds but in front of the background. You can play around with it. Look how organized this is. So you don't have to sit and move each of these individual functions. You can just define your functions up here. Like, what is it going to look like when we draw the fence? What's it going to look like when we draw the clouds and the trees? And then play around with the order down here. So right now, all right, I don't like how that looks. I want the trees in front of the clouds. So I'm going to move the clouds back up a little bit. And that's it. Okay. So keep that in mind. It just keeps your program organized, makes it a little bit more functional. All right. All right, part 5. Does it matter where you create functions? So far, all your functions have been created at the bottom. But actually, if you go back to my first one, I didn't put it at the bottom. So let's take a look. I have the red square, I'm calling it up here, and I'm drawing the green down here. They're both, it doesn't matter where this is in the program. They're both going to be called. They're both going to be drawn. Okay, so you can create and call those functions anywhere in the code. The only thing that does matter is if you have that layering effect going on. Then it does matter, which one comes first. But it doesn't matter if you do it at the top or the bottom. Calling functions in the draw loop. You can call a function inside the draw loop just as you would anywhere in your code. The ones we were just looking at were outside the draw loop, so it was just going to be a sprite or a background or whatever it was, and it wasn't moving. Do this. A function that will draw a background has been created for you. A sprite has been created to move across the background. Call the function inside the draw loop so that the sprite appears on top of the background. No, don't create functions inside the draw loop. Make them at the bottom of your code. All right, so there's my flyer. We notice we didn't create the tree background inside of the draw function. We created it below, like it said. In the draw function, this is where things are happening. So you set the trees background and then draw your sprites. Again, if you want, I can do the version history so you can see exactly how we did that. So right now, if I hit run, I don't see the background. All I'm seeing is the sprite because we created the background, pretty extensive background with the fence and everything, but you need to call that first. And notice that trail going on because there is no background being called. So it's just getting that sprite's trail. So I'm going to go trees, background. Now you can see that sprite moving across that background. Okay. So the draw function, when you see the word draw, that's when it's actually putting it on paper. Well, quote paper. But this is just creating it. Okay. Part 7. And I'll stop when we get to your project that you're working on. All right, calling functions multiple times. You'll often want to use the same code at many places in your program, which is one of the useful things of using functions. Once you've created a function, you can call it as many times as you like. Do this. This code creates a sprite that moves across the screen once. How can you make it go back across the screen? Note the function is already called once at the beginning of your program. Read the condition of the if statement inside the draw loop. Why do you think it's there? Use this if statement and function written for you to make the sprite move across the screen multiple times. All right, so what I have going on right now, there he's moving across the screen. I see my background in there. He's moving at different speeds, different locations. So if you look, your flyer is defined here. So he has basically his x value is always starting over here on this side of the screen. And then his y value is showing up at a random place. So he's a random height along with a random speed of velocity between -1 and -10. And then your tree background like before. But it wasn't caught until you call it, if the flyer's x value gets below -50, so if it gets off the screen over here, then you're going to call that flyer again. So you call it at the beginning to start up here in line 3, and then if you want it to pop back over and keep popping back over and following these conditions, put it inside of your draw function too. So again, I'll start over and show you where you were at in case you're stuck. So right now, the flyer's moving across the screen. I'm going to reset it. Maybe I'll go faster this time. No, maybe not. Okay, because his velocity x is -1, so he's moving pretty slow. So it said the function already called. Read the condition. Oh, it's you have this link here. So the function is already called once. Read the condition of the if statement inside the draw loop. Why do you think it's there? Again, if the flyer's x value is less than -50, then we want it to move back over here. So if the flyer's x position gets below -50, then all you want to do, instead of going through all this, resetting the x value, all you're going to do is call your function again. So I want the set flyer to move across the screen again. And it'll basically still move at the same speed. We haven't added in the randomization yet, which we will in the coming levels. So you're just going to see here that he pops back up. Okay, let's add some to this. So part 8, still working on this game. A nice benefit of using functions is you can easily make changes to multiple places in your code. Just change how you create the functions. So if you want to change, if you're not using these functions, if you wanted to change something about the flyer, you would have to change it each time. You'd have to keep adding that code in. But instead, you can just have it happen here, and then anytime you call the flyer, those changes will be there. So you don't have to put it in multiple places. Make changes to the set flyer function so the flyer starts at a random y location between 0 and 400 and moves at a random velocity every time he's reset. So rather than, we're just going to work on the set flyer's description here. Rather than always being at 200, we're going to change that to a random number. We still want the x value to come over here to 450, but the y value is going to be between 0. Oops. My goodness. 0 tab 400. and we want the speed to do the same. Now it's negative, so -1 to say 5. Or maybe you don't want it to go, not 5, because it would go, if it was positive, it would go this way and you'd never see it. So let's speed it up a bit. -2 to -10. All right. So now he's going to be at a random place on the screen, and he's also going to be at a random speed each time. So he's a little higher that time. Not sure if the speed changed much, but that's okay. Oh, he's really flying up there. Okay. But notice I just had to change it there rather than having to change it in multiple parts of your program. So it's pretty handy. All right. Creating functions to organize code. In Game Lab, all the action is happening in the draw loop. So again, this is where your things are happening. These things down here, this is just creating, okay, I'm drawing my night sky. I'm creating what that's going to look like. Here I'm creating my day sky, which we haven't done yet, and tell me what that's going to look like. And then if you want to change anything, you just have to change it there. And then when you call it, those changes will appear every time. So let's see what it has us doing. This program should draw a daytime scene or a nighttime scene, depending on the location of the mouse. The draw loop describes what needs to happen, but one of the function hasn't been written yet. Write the draw night function, which has been created but is empty. Hint, look at the picture to the right and how your night sky should look. Can you use the draw day function to help you at all? All right, so I've already created that. So there's my night sky. You can see the night kind of, the moon kind of reflecting over the dark water, and then during the day. All right. So basically, let me restart this. And again, if you've already done this, you don't have to sit through it all. So let's walk through it together. All right. So right now, I'm seeing the day scene, but I'm not seeing anything else. It's pausing when I go up here. So, because what's happening, if the mouse's Y value is greater than 200, so if my mouse moves above the midpoint of the screen, then it's supposed to draw night. The problem is there's nothing in here for night, so it doesn't know what to do. It's drawing the day. So we're going to basically take and do this same thing, but in the night sky. So the easiest way to do this, why don't we just copy and paste and change some colors around? So the draw day, you can see right here, we've got the no stroke, got everything in there. I'm just going to highlight all of this, not the brackets though. Those are already there for you. Just hit, you can right click and hit copy, or just Control C. And then I'm going to go up here and put that right inside of my two brackets. All right, I'm going to go back to my blocks now. All right, so here, if I reset and run, it's going to be the same thing no matter what. We need to make this look like a night sky. So the first thing we're going to do, we got a couple extra blocks in there by doing that, but that's okay. The background, okay? So maybe you want, you don't have to use that particular color. You could go, play around with these, see what happens. Oh, we don't want a pink one. Or you could just use the colors itself. So go to drawing. I'm going to pull that out, and I'm just going to put a color in there. Makes it easier. Or you could just hit the drop-down menu. Maybe you want the sky to be black, so maybe we'll just type in the word black and see what happens. Oh, we don't have our quotes, that's why. All right. Or if you wanted like a deep blue, you could play around with it. Oh, come on. I'm going to go back to text. Sometimes it's easier. All right. Let's see if it works. There we go. Okay. Looks like a night sky. Good. All right. So the water is going to look pretty dark at night too. So maybe we should change that color too. Again, you could play around with this, or you can pull just that block out and change the fill color. And this empty comment, that's just from copying and pasting. You can take that out. Okay, so maybe we want it to be like a dark gray or a dark blue. And just play around with it. Oh, it doesn't recognize dark blue. So maybe navy. I guess it already was navy. But again, you could, maybe you want to do a gray. Whoop. Maybe you want it darker than that. I mean, you can do so much. Dark gray. Or dark blue. Whatever. We'll leave it like that for now. All right, but it's not going to be yellow dots at night, and the moon's not going to be yellow. It's going to look more white. So instead of a sun, now I'm going to change this to moon, just to remind me what I'm doing. I'm going to pull these comments out. All right, and you can play around with that. Maybe just white. So the fill is going to be quotes white. Maybe you want it, to have some other color. So let me go back to my old one and we can look at what I went with. But you can sit and play around with the colors all you want. But that was you can see, you can actually use this as a guide too. Looks like a dark, dark blue there. You got your gray moon, okay? You can play around with these numbers. So oh, looks like I need to go back one more version history. There we go. Here we go. Dark blue. Okay, so let's take a look. So I did a dark blue sky. The water I did black. All right. Yes, it looks black. The moon I did silver. All right. And I didn't change silver, which made these all silver as well. All right. So what's happening here, if the Y value is greater than 200, then I draw the day. So if it's down here, the Y value is greater than 200, it draws the day scene. Or else, so otherwise, if it's above 200, it draws the night scene. But again, feel free to pause this and use those values that I used. All right, level 10. Time to practice writing functions of your own. This is a very simple game in which coins fall from the sky and the bunny tries to catch them. All you need to do is write the function that sets up the coin. So read and run the code that already exists to make sure you know how it works. Write code for the set coin function to make the coin fall from the sky. Okay, so that's where I got to. I move my bunny around with my arrow keys. The coin goes at a different speed, different velocity each time. All right, so let's take a look at my code. This is also including some of the other levels. So I called my coin up here. Oh, look at my winner. All right, we'll talk about this. These are all things that I created. You can see that it has the link there, so it's going to connect to other things. So you can see some of the things I did. The coin itself, I started my score value up here at 0. I created the bunny up here. I created the coin up here. And then the draw loop, I drew the background. I have my left and right arrow keys to make the bunny move. But we'll talk about all that added code here shortly. So I'm going to just reset. And I'm going to stop the video here. I want you to try to play around with this and make it your own. I'll come back in the next video to give you some ideas. In the meantime, if you have questions, email me or stop by any of my Zooms. I'd be happy to help. Have a great day.